Hello everyone, my name is Maral and I am here because I've got something to say. The beauty of being who I am is that I'm able to enjoy the sounds of music and lyrical melodies sung in as many languages as I know. Is that I can converse with people from 4 different parts of the world and enjoy the sounds of the spoken word coming from the vocal cords of different people. Is that I can dance to the rhythms of the East and I can groove to the beats of the West. Is that I can rejoice and get lost in flavors of cuisines that echo my mother, my father, my motherlands in Baghdad, Basra, and Lebanon, my ancestral lands in Armenia, and my generous host of lands, from the hills of Amman over to the cold confines in Toronto, and the hot desert winds of Doha and the sea breezes of Abu Dhabi. Is that I can share stories, tell, talk, write, and shed light on so many elements and facets that ignite my senses. The Spirit chose this body to experience, to travel, feel, deal, taste, to love, and to remember. This very Spirit lives through my passions that I nourish in art, culture, music, and languages, all of which connect to stories of flavors that have shaped me over the past 40 years of my life. To keep my senses alive, I track memory, and I track memory through bites, sights, and sounds. Thank you for joining me. This is Maral, and these are my stories. Let's get started.
هلا وعيوني بلادي رضاها وأزكى القرى للضيوف قراها بلادي ويملأني الزهو أني لها أنتمي وبها أتباهى لأن العراقة معنى العراق ويعني التبغدد عزا.
Imagine dancers in a semicircle around a fire, crackling steps to the jumping hot flares of amber burning timber, fumes of crackling fat and steaming fresh river water emanating from a row of freshly caught butterflied fish. Today I highlight an important ritual of eating a dish that is commonly shared with family and friends, a national dish specialty of Iraqi fish, Simach-Masgouf. Let me tell you all about this magnificent dish we call Simach-Masgouf fish. You see, the name of the dish, Masgouf, does not echo the type of fish used to cook it, but rather the way the fish is grilled or cooked. I know, Arabic is beautifully complex, so let me just break it down for you. Let's imagine that you want to create a roof of some kind or a siding that would stand. You would create what we call a saguf, a roof. You see, the word saguf in colloquial Iraqi means roof, therefore masgouf means something that is roofed. What does this mean? Let me break it down a little bit further. To create the masgouf cooking method, which is the roofed fish, you will need a row of wooden sticks to pierce through the butterflied open fish to stand for grilling next to an open fire. So, in essence, you have fish dancing around an open fire with arms wide open, kind of like line dancing or debke, or in our case, of course, it's chobi. Get the picture? I hope so. As Iraqis, we make Simach-Masgouf by choosing a fatty white river fish, shabut, gatan, kind of like carp in English. We split the fish from the backside all the way to the head, open it gently and lovingly, clean it from inside with water, salt, or vinegar, then poke 2 or 3 holes in the fish to place wooden pegs through and hold it up, roof it, and then it's ready for grilling. This type of cooking gives the flesh of the fatty fish a crispy browned exterior. Sources say that this method of grilling is inherited from the Sumerians. Other sources connect it to the Abbasid Khalifa in Baghdad, and this is due to the location of the historical Abu Nawas Street, which was located opposite the old Abbasid Palace in Baghdad back in the day. And while fish is eaten throughout Iraq, the dish is especially popular in the cities along the Tigris River, Nahar Dijla. Sadly, due to the ongoing conflicts in Iraq, the fish has become quite scarce since the late 80s. Now, let's take a walk together down memory lane. I recall my parents heading to Al Ahwar, the marshes region in the south of Iraq. They would go there to buy fish from the fishermen living there. And they would tell us about their trip as they rowed in small boats called mashhouf. They would take the mashhouf to reach the fishermen. You see, mashhouf is the mode of water transport and the way people navigated the marshes, and they still do. Mashhouf is a thin, light boat made out of wood, coated with crude oil so that it can easily pass through the abundant cane of papyrus plants in the marshes. The Sabi'i Mendain were amongst the first people and the most important manufacturers of the mashhouf. So when I talk about these dishes, it's not only because they are important to our diet, but because there are just so many memories attached to them. And my memories of eating fish in Iraq are so numerous that I just had to choose a few to be able to share with you today. So first, I'd like to go back to my grandparents' house in the south of Iraq in Basra. And I'd like to visit my grandmother, who was always busy cooking something delicious in the tannur barra bil hadiqa, the outdoor clay oven in the garden. From baking fresh Iraqi khubuz tannur every single day, Iraqi flatbread, or cooking something amazing, whether it was sabur fish or other types of fish caught in the south near Shatt al-Arab. Sometimes the fish was smoked on embers and sometimes it was just wrapped and grilled. I still smell the tannur. I can smell it. While I grew up with watching my grandmother use the tannur to cook, it is also said that the earliest examples of tannur oven were found in the settlements from ancient civilizations in the Indus Valley. The Arabic word tannur is derived from the Akkadian languages. The word tinuru, apparently tin means mud, and nura or nuru means fire, and the same word is mentioned in the writings of the Epic of Gilgamesh. And in the diversity of our beautiful language, I also discovered in Persian, it's tannur, in Armenian, it's tonir, in Turkish, it's tandir, and in Kurdish, it's tendir or tendur. And from my grandparents' house in Basra, over to my mother's kitchen in Baghdad, where she would prepare Simach fish in the furan, the stove oven. There on the kitchen table, a beautiful large carp fish, gattan, opened and laid flat on its back in a baking tray. The fish is cooked slowly, and on the side, my mom would prepare this delicious salsa. We call the salsa hashwa or hashu, which technically means stuffing, but although we're not stuffing the fish, but rather covering it with this tasty, aromatic salsa made from chopped onions, tomatoes, crushed garlic, cilantro mixed with sauce of tamarind, tamar hindi, cooked and layered over the fish in the last half hour of its cooking time. Boy, is it ever amazing. On Fridays, my mom would prepare this specialty meal and we would just devour it with a side of locally grown ambar rice and lettuce salad with garlic and cucumber. My mom would keep the tomatoes off because it would make the dish a little bit more zinach, fishy. Not to mention the sides of the Iraqi table staples. You got your spring onions, green leaves, rashad, white radish, and of course, khubz, Iraqi bread. Other Friday lunches would be special just as well when we ate in restaurants in Baghdad. Those were some memorable days, especially after church mass when we would just head on over to a restaurant and the weather was nice for a beautiful outdoor lunch. Let me take you back to Shara Abu Nawas for a bit. We would head to the famous Abu Nawas Street with the many fish restaurants overlooking the river. Abu Nawas, my friends, in case you haven't heard, is one of the main streets in Baghdad that runs along the east bank of the Tigris River. It is named after the famous classical Arabic poet Abu Nawas, whose famous statue by Ismail Fatah al-Turk adorns the street since it was created back in 1972.
هلي مكان اللي أحبه بعد موجود حديقتنا بعدها محملة ورود بعدها صورتي تتوسط البيت وأغاني اللي أحبها من الطفولة أنا الناظم وللقب انجحنيت للمقهى القديم وجاي أبو الهيل أبو ذياتنا مقاماتنا عتاباتنا سحر بمواويل بحضن دجلة الزوارق هاي مطوف ونيران الشواطئ وسمك-مسقوف الله ينتقم منك يا أيام.
I recall going to one of the fish restaurants. We enter, choose your table, then head on over to the basin of the freshly caught carp fish, and you choose yours. Then you sit and wait while the fish gets grilled. Masgouf in the making. An hour or so later, in comes the fish with khubz Arab, Arabic bread, burshi, pickles, amba, pickled mango, kind of like chutney, and raw sweet onions. Fend off the flies and eat your heart out with your hands. I cannot tell you how amazing this meal is. I truly wish that we can go back to Abu Nawas and have the same experience together.
أشتاق لك يا نهر يا البردك الجنة صفصاف شعري هدل وبمايك تحنى لزني على صدرك هلا وسكتة وهلا وونة وطول مدام الحلم ما ينشبع منه عمرك أبد يا أبد متباهي بسياله وعمريش كثر كم شهر كم يوم كم ليلة موج على صدرك نبض نسمة هو تشيل بلياك يا ضيعتي والعمر يا ويله التغريب كله تعب دير البلم حدار وخلي الليالي تمر نكتة وسمر واشعار تشرب عيوني القمر بس الخدود تغار من يسقفون السمك وتلالي بيك النار كلك حلو خابط وصافي وسخي ومهيوب تتباهى حقه يتباهى لها كثر محبوب من منبعك للمصب فيت عليك قلوب يا ما رويت الغزل يا ما غسلت الذنوب رديت لك يا نهر يا البردك الجنة صفصاف شعري هدل وبمايك تحنى.
The ritual of eating fish, whether at home or at a restaurant, always carried a special spirit. It's as if today, when we eat fish, we think we are still sitting around the table somewhere at home, somewhere near the river, somewhere in Iraq. Today's musical and lyrical inspirations featured